Good morning, everybody. Beruchim Aba'im to everyone. Today, Wednesday, the 25th day of Tevet, the 29th day of December. Today's class graciously sponsored by Mr. Albert Aides and family, La'ilun Nishmat, his beloved mother, Nisha, Bat Fortune, Aliyah Shalom, and as well, today's class sponsored La'ilun Nishmat, Abraham Alberto Ben Sara Cohen, Don Alberto Faschatawil from Mexico City, by his children. Yiratzon that to the words of Torah, their neshamot have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Today we are going to be discussing a very powerful and practical topic: the prohibition of hurting people verbally. Hurting people verbally. The Gemara makes a comparison between, God forbid, hurting people physically, financially, verbally, or emotionally. I like to bond the emotion and the verbal because both of them are related. So the Gemara writes, Lo tonu ishet amito. You're not allowed to hurt people. The Gemara writes, what kind of hurting is this particular pasuk referring to? So the Gemara brings different questions, but bottom line, the conclusion is, ona'at devarim. The money prohibition of hurting people, it's a pasuk that says, Lo tonu ishet amito, v'chitimkeru mincha la'avitecha. When you sell or you buy something, you need to be honest in the world of business. But when it comes to ona'at devarim, what does it mean ona'at devarim? What does it mean to hurt someone verbally? So the Gemara brings an example. Imaya ba'al teshuvah. If a person, let's say, that for certain segment of their life, they did not live in the proper way, and now the person started to do teshuvah.
It's working without it.
I understand that, but this is a limited life support. I know my machines. Limited life support. So what does it mean? A person did teshuvah. Al yomar lo, Zechor ma'asecha harishonim. Don't tell the person, remember when you used to eat from McDonald's? Was it really tasty? Has v'shalom to say this to someone, because the person now did teshuvah. Or im haya ben gerim. Or let's say that a person was a convert, or a person is a child of a convert. Don't come to them and ask them, tell me, how much does it cost to buy an Xmas tree?
Okay.
Hazaku Baruch. But maybe your question may be innocent, but to a certain extent we are reminding the person of situations of the past that a person wants to forget. So therefore the Gemara writes, another example, Al yomar lo, peshe achal nevelot utrefot, bal ilmod Torah. Or, for example, let's say that a person wants to do teshuvah, or a person wants to become a Jew. I know that for the Syrian tradition we have the edict, but I need to be clear with the Gemara. So you may say to the person, you know what? Go eat kasher for a month, and after you eat kasher for a month, we're going to learn Torah with you. And that's what the Gemara says. Al yomar lo. Don't say to the person, how can you learn Torah if your mouth ate taref? You have to understand, this fellow is a goy. He didn't become a Jew yet. If it's a goy, he's not obligated to eat kasher. A goy has 7 mitzvot. Shiv'a mitzvot b'nei Noach. And one of them has nothing to do with kosher food. The only mitzvah related to food to the go'im of Shiv'a mitzvot b'nei Noach, the 7 universal Noahide laws, is a mitzvah called Ever Min Ahai, that you're not allowed to eat a limb, a piece of an animal while the animal is alive, because that causes obviously sar ba'alei haim, you cause him pain and suffering to the animal, and the Gemara already says there is mideoraita as well. Or, for example, let's say that a person comes to me, and I say come to me because to me all kinds of people come, all kinds, and somebody asks me, hey, Rabbi, I need to buy, okay, the Gemara says to buy wheat, cereal, okay, in the olden days. But let's say, Rabbi, I need a good plumber, for example, right? Or I need a good electrician. So what I say to him, go and speak to Raphael. But I know that Raphael is not a plumber, is not an electrician, correct? Okay? So by me referring someone to someone that has nothing to do with the request that they ask from me, that's also called ona'at devarim. Because I'm taking you and sending you to him, and he says, what do you mean? The rabbi sent me for a plumbing job in your home? So what happened? I wasted your time.
Actually, I need plumber. But
If you need a plumber, talk to me after the class. I think that I have most of the things already that people need available information.
you need to do in the website Safra, you know. With,
No, relax. No, we don't need to do that. Okay? בידוע שלא מחר לעולם. And you know that this fellow, he is in home decoration. Or he is, let's say, on a textile. That's easier. Not in the plumbing business. Or the Gemara goes even further. אף לא יתלה עיניו על המקח בשעה שאין לו דמים. Translation: don't put your eye on merchandise when you don't have money on you to buy it. Let's say you go to a store, you see a customer like me coming into your store. What's going to be your reaction? Hashub. The guy comes with a suit, with a tie, okay? He's going to make my day today. But I know that I'm just looking. So you know what the Gemara seems to imply? Tell the person that you're looking. So this way, I don't use your time because your company is paying you a salary. Again, I can say to him, I'm just browsing. I let you know if I need help. This way, Chazaku Baruch. He says, don't worry, I'm here to show you. Okay, maybe there are no customers in the store, and you're going to try to use your salesman skills, so to speak, to make me buy something, and that's halachically okay. But if I come to the store to buy, and I don't even have the wallet on me, okay, so it means that I will never buy because I don't have a wallet. Again, we're not talking that you go to your brother's store or your cousin's. Okay, don't worry about it. You'll pay me later. You go to Macy's, you go to the mall, you go to Walmart, you have to pay. That's another case that the Gemara writes. Shehare hadavar masur lalev. It says when the salesperson sees a potential client, he doesn't know if I have my wallet on me. But I know that my wallet is not on me. And I know that I only came to browse. I know that I'm not buying.
window shop.
Hazaku Baruch. Beautiful. Now, but who knows this? Not the salesperson. Who knows this?
You.
The person. So he says the Gemara, this is davar masur lalev. Only God and I know that I have no intentions of buying it. And that's why the Pasuk says, Bechol davar masur lalev, ne'emar bo beyareta me'elokecha. It says, maybe that person doesn't understand, doesn't see you, doesn't know that you don't have the wallet, but God knows. And once God knows, your actions do not go undetected. Comes the Gemara and it says, what I started to mention before, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Gadol ona'at devarim me'ona'at mamon. it says, greater is the avon of hurting the person verbally than financially. And the reason the Gemara explains is many answers. One of them says, זה בגופו, זה בממונו. זה ניתן להישרון, זה לא ניתן להישרון. When you hurt someone, God forbid financially, the Gemara says that you can remedy that avon. How? Excellent question. The Rambam says two steps you need. You need to pay back, and you need to apologize to the victim. Okay? That's be mamono. But when it comes to the avon by the mouth, ze begufo. You're hurting the person with your mouth verbally, veze lo nitan lehishavon. You cannot remedy pain and suffering. These are heavy words. Pain and suffering is not easy to repair. What does that mean? Of course, hopefully, will be easy to repair. But the Gemara says, and I read you the Pirush clearly, and it says, when a person suffers a financial loss, once that money is reimbursed to the person is calm. And will take a few days until the person can continue. But Sara לא ניתן לבטל את הסער שסערו. ואף אם ירצהו אחר כך בדברים, אין מבטל בזה תחושת הבושה שבייש אותו. Translation. It says that you cannot just nullify pain and suffering by telling the person 3 words. I'm sorry. I'm sorry is important to say.
Okay.
But many people have difficulty, right, in saying that. Some people may say, don't be so sensitive. What's the big deal? Those comments, especially in a husband and wife relationship, obviously don't help, but it says that the pain, it takes time for the pain to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that that pain heals is when the medicine, so to speak, teshuvah, is activated. What does that mean, teshuvah? Teshuvah means that a person doesn't repeat again the same mistake. Because if you hurt your spouse, and sometimes the wife can hurt the husband, sometimes the husband can hurt the wife, or parents to children, or children to parents, or people, right? By the talking, that pain exists. That's the reason why today there is so much said openly about mental health and trauma, of abuse, of neglect, of addiction, of depression, of all kinds of new words that we are learning. It's not that they didn't exist. They existed for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, these things are coming up to the surface of the world. So it seems that from today's Gemara, that already 2,000 years ago, the Hachamim already are telling us, don't minimize the value of mental health. Because God forbid, mental health or trauma leaves a scar in the person's emotional well-being. And sometimes it takes a lot of years to remedy. Or sometimes it takes a lot of therapy to remedy the situation. I know that there is a wonderful organization by the name of Amudim. Amudim is a known organization out of New York, Israel, and I think they're opening up now a chapter here. Amudim deals with every imaginable type of challenging situation. They don't help needy brides or needy families, but they help the mind, which is more dangerous than the financial aspect of it. I look at the case file last week, I'm not going to tell you numbers, not to make you sad so early in the morning, but I look at the list of cases that they have dealt with, and I get a weekly report for what they do, by the way. I get a weekly without fail between Thursday and Friday. Rabbi, these are the caseload that we handled. Anxiety, depression, gambling, suicide effect, child abuse, spousal abuse, child neglect. Keep talking. More or less 20 to 25 different scenarios that none of us will touch, even with a 10-foot pole. Besides helping on extreme emergency cases, God forbid, if it's a funeral or Chas v'Shalom tragedies, that's a whole different department, but the concentration is mostly today on mental health. And mental health, to a certain extent, can be prevented if we act properly. If we follow today's Gemara, mental health will be challenges, will be less than actually what it is today. You know, a couple approach me and they tell me, my child only screams at home. Okay? And they asked me many years back, they asked me to do intervention. I do intervention occasionally. Okay? But I asked the child, tell me something. Why do you scream at home? Can you speak normal like you and I are talking now? And look what the child said to me. Rabbi, my father and my mother, that's how they speak at home. So I turned to the parents, that they turn blue, red, yellow, and white, 7 colors of the rainbow. I said, here is the solution. You know, you came to me, okay, I'm embarrassed that I have to meet with a husband, wife, and a child, you know. But I said to them, you heard from your own child. You change, your child will change. You can't expect that your child be a nice, dandy gentleman, you know, Oxford graduate, heke with etiquette, you know, a nice when you talk like in a flea market. And Chas v'Shalom, if you work in a flea market, not to minimize your source of income. But let's be honest here. You know, in Argentina, there is like a certain level of criticism when a person speaks very loud or screams when they speak. Okay? And I say Argentina because that's the only place in the world that I've seen this type of jab. There is a jab called, in Spanish, it's called botellero. Botellero comes from the word botella, bottles. Bottles. So what this guy does, he goes around the block, around the city, and he picks up all kinds of bottles. Today in America, it's called recycling the can.
Oh, okay.
But in Argentina, they used to recycle the glass, right? And we have somebody from Argentina who can confirm what I'm saying. I don't know if today this exists, but when I was a child, there used to be this guy walking on the street, screaming like Mashiach came. Al-Tezachen, okay, thank you very much. Apparently Israel also had the same thing. Al-Tezachen, for those who understand Yiddish, it means old wares, old dishes. They used to sell all things. What do you want? You want a needle? You want a part from a machine? You need a shoe missing from another shoe? You need a maleta handle, luggage? That's what I mean, Al-Tezachen. In Spanish, it's called cachivache. Right? There is such a word?
Old stuff, see.
Yeah, old stuff. Same thing. You see? So I'm happy that many countries in the world have the same job description. So I remember as a child that the rabbi in the shiur, it says, a Yehudi cannot scream like a botellero. It says a Yehudi cannot raise their voice. In other words, when you talk to people, Ramban, let's invite the Ramban. Nachmanides write the famous letter that he writes to his son. How does he begin the letter. תתנהג תמיד, שמע בני מוסר אביך ותיטוש תורת אמך, תתנהג תמיד לדבר כל דבריך בנחת. He says, train yourself to always speak in a pleasant, in a calm manner. Okay, raising the voice. We're not saying that you're raising your voice because you're singing Nishmat with the Hazan. Chazak Baruch. You want to sing Nishmat, you want to sing Nakdishach, you want to sing whatever with the Kahal. Okay? That's beautiful. That's perfect because you're praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in the way that a person talks, it's loud. That's a problem. Because usually speaking loud, it shows a lack of the recheres and refinement. And let's clarify, based on the Gemara that we are learning now, it has nothing to do with the sensitivity of the listener or the recipient. It has to do with the person themselves, the way they talk. Continues the Gemara, and it says, the concept of Zelo nitan lehishavon, which I explained before, that emotional pain is not a remedy automatically. You cannot hurt your spouse and go to the store, bring her the flowers, and automatically say, okay, I give you the Band-Aid, I give you plastic surgery, like nothing else. It happened before, and there are no wounds. The Gemara writes that the pain, the emotional pain,
Still there.
takes time to heal. You heard the story that I said a while back, I'm sure you know it, of the husband and wife. They did not have a great relationship. Apparently the wife was a victim of the husband screaming. Okay? And not because he was deaf. He screamed because that's how he was. Okay? And one day the husband tells the wife tells the husband, please bring me a pair of shoes from the closet. And the husband goes to the closet, he brings a pair of shoes, and he sees a piece of wood with a hammer and a lot of nails. Right? Remember that story? And the husband asks the wife, what is that? It says, every nail represents every time you scream at me. So instead of me screaming back at you, I go upstairs, I take a nail, a hammer, I release all my energy and my anger on the piece of wood. So the husband says, Uli. So if you have so many nails there, it means that I better do teshuvah. Okay, Baruch Hashem, the husband recognized that he needs to change the way he talks at home. Make long story short, a few months later, the same scenario. The wife says to the husband, please go bring me a pair of shoes from the closet. The husband goes, and to his surprise, what does he see? That all the nails are gone. So he's very proud of himself. He says to his wife, I guess that I'm a great husband now. He says, why do you say that? He says, because all the nails are gone. She says, the nails are gone, but the holes are still there.
Oh my God.
החורים עוד שמה. המסמר הלך. אבל החור, but the hole is there. And that's exactly what the Mefarshim on the Gemara says. He says, do you think that to nullify pain is automatic? It takes effort, it takes prayers, it takes teshuvah, and it takes obviously good behavior as well. Now, I'm hesitant to speak about a topic. I'm going to save it for some other time. I spoke about it in the first class, but for this moment, I'll skip it. Let's go back a minute. I wanted to share something with the Kahal yesterday. Okay. We'll discuss, God willing, in the next few minutes, maybe 10 situations that we must avoid in our life. I will talk now. Because these situations, God forbid, can prevent a person to do teshuvah. It's a 10 of 24. So we'll try to do 10. Perhaps we can only do 5. But I come back and we'll continue tomorrow very together. Thank you. So let me give you a brief introduction. Teshuvah is actually a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives each and every one of us. Now, you may say, is there teshuvah for every single transgression? I cannot give you a definite answer because even the loss of teshuvah, there is a checklist on teshuvah. Sometimes teshuvah means not to repeat again the avon. Sometimes the avon is so severe that a person needs to go on the topic of isurin. Isurin with the yod means a hardship, punishment through life. Sometimes the person needs to do a kapara. And sometimes all of the above is required, including leaving the physical world. That is in the physical world. Then you have the next part of life, Olam Haba. Does the person go straight to Gan Eden? Or God forbid, the person goes to the opposite side. I don't even like to say the word, begins with a Gimal. Okay, so you have Gan Eden. Gan Eden also begins with a Gimal. I'll tell you a speech that I gave 2 weeks ago in a Chuppah. And I said to the Hatan and Kala, you have the potential of building a garden in your married life.
Okay.
So I asked them, why do I say that? So it says in the Sefarim HaKedoshim that when husband and wife get married, the husband has many names. A husband can be called Ish, Gever, Adam, I'm not sure because Adam means humanity per se, Adon, Baal, and the Isha, the wife can be called Isha, Nekeva, Giberet. So I said to them that when it comes to marriage, there are 2 key words that we use for husband and wife. In the men's department, we call the husband Gever. Gever means from Gibor. The husband's mission in marriage is to protect his wife. That's what you sign in the ketubah. If nobody ever told you that, go call your rabbi. But if you look at the ketubah, everything that's written in the ketubah is basically what the husband must do for his wife.
Right.
There's nothing much written on the ketubah about the wife's obligation in marriage. The opposite. In certain cases, the ketubah says you need to ask your wife's permission.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Check out the ketubah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. But we don't discuss it now. Baruch Hashem is not the topic of ketubah today. But I told him, the Hatan and the Kala, that in a wedding, the Hatan is called Gever, and the Kala it's called Nekeva. Rashi Tevot, Gan, garden.
Okay.
Husband and wife represent the garden of Eden, meaning to say, when they are under the chuppah, they are like Adam and Hava. And that's why the Pasuk says, Kesamechacha yesircha began Eden mikedem. Now, so I'm going to talk about a topic that I was hesitant to speak about it a few moments ago. But since you're such a good recipient audience, I will speak about it. is not a pleasant topic to speak about, is not a happy topic, is actually a very painful and unfortunate and tragic topic. I'm sure that you have heard something that happened in Israel 48 hours ago, that a fellow, supposedly a rabbi and a writer of books, committed suicide. Committed suicide after he was summoned to the Bedin for 22 allegations of abuse. God forbid. I warn you.
Abuse of his wife.
No, the wife is the victim. No, strangers. Doesn't matter. Boys, girls, young, old, it doesn't matter. And it became a very controversial issue in Eretz Israel, in America as well. Because once the allegations started to come out, all the books were removed from the bookshelves from every single Jewish bookstore in America and in the world, correct? Sure, because a person that has this type of allegations, and he was summoned to the Bedin, and I don't want to be in the shoes of the Bedin who had to deal this case, because it's a very problematic case. But the Bedin, to my limited knowledge, and what I understood from reliable sources, that they met with the 22 victims.
Oh boy.
And the rabbi was saying last night that there was no case that everyone in the room did not shed tears.
Did not?
Estaban llorando, shedding tears for the way that these individuals were scarred emotionally and physically, etc. So somebody asked me earlier today if there is teshuvah for such an avon. And I'll be honest with you, this is beyond my leagues. Definitely is an avon, is a very serious avon. You know, when I mentioned before about Amudim, before the Amudim, you know what Amudim does? They do the intake of these victims and they work with them to help them become productive members of society. Because many of them, the trauma that they experience is so severe that their life is gone. They live a physical life, but their potential is buried under their pain and Hazaku Baruch into the emotional and mental health, God forbid, that they have. So therefore, this was a very painful case in Israel and in the world, because even though this happened in Israel, lo alenu velo alechem, but we pay the price here as well. It's a domino effect. Not because a tragedy happens in a different location that we say, Baruch Hashem, it happened there, not here. God forbid. Okay? It created a tremendous amount of Hilul Hashem. And I'm not saying guilty, not guilty, I don't know enough, but those rabbis that are handling it are doing whatever they need to do. But now a fellow committed suicide yesterday or 2 days ago. So now the whole question is, what happens? Chief,
Hello,
welcome.
how are you?
Welcome.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was
No.
going to say hello to you. I wanted to say hi.
Hi, okay, so now you say hi to all your constituents.
Everybody.
The whole mishpacha is here.
Very good. Very good.
Would you like to have a kosher bagel?
No.
All kosher?
I know.
So, you know what? Bring a chair next to me for a minute.
I sit all the time.
You see, okay, so I'm sharing with them how careful we need to be with mental health. And I'm sure you see this every day in the line of duty, going out to protect the citizens of the city of Aventura, that thank God, may God protect us all constantly, you and your officers, but mental health is something that cannot be ignored and overlooked and hidden under the rug. If you see something, you have to, like in terrorism, God forbid, what they say, if you see something, say something, and when you deal with mental health issues, better be proactive and don't minimize. It's not an embarrassment to ask for help. That's why there are institutions here, all over, but here, especially in South Florida, that they open up literally offices so people can have a counselor, can have someone to work with them and to try to remedy the pain they're suffering. Sometimes could be childhood trauma, sometimes could be, God forbid, abuse, sometimes could be neglect. Haz v'shalom, I'm not even comfortable talking about this topic, but this was the breakfast of today. How sensitive the Talmud says that the words that a person uses and the pain that painful words cause the person take longer to heal and to remedy than a financial pain. Correct? Talmud, Baba Messiah, in the class of today. So I will continue. I wish you good luck in your new position.
Thank you.
You're the official chief.
Yes.
Chazak. He was promoted, after many years in the police force to become the chief. When I tell you a secret, the Talmud writes that God sends good things and blessings to mankind through good people.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And I'll tell you a small secret as well, that the day of a person's promotions is their own Yom Kippur. That God says, okay, now we're starting a new page in your life, we're starting again. It's like a groom and bride get married under the chuppah. That day is the day of Yom Kippur. When a person experiences in promotion in life, and your promotion is not simple, because you deal with people's lives, literally, 24/7, Shabbat, holidays, Rosh Hashanah, and Kippur. You have a special code of Jewish law, like Hatzalah responders, right? That to save people's lives. So I bless you to be safe, healthy, you, your family, and all the wonderful officers of the city of Aventura that are under your kind and confident command.
Thank you.
Amen.
Wish everybody a happy and a healthy new year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be well.
All right. take care.
Shalom.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you for your
Be
service.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. I know for many years. Thank God. Okay. Yehudi, sure. Sure. Very nice, yes. Anyways, so I wanted to speak about this topic because some people did ask me about it, to speak about it, and again, I feel bad for all the people involved. I feel bad first for the victims. God forbid. I feel not happy that a situation like this ever happened to begin with. I'm not happy that this fellow unfortunately resorted to suicide because the Bedin offered him a pathway to do teshuvah.
How old was he?
Middle age. Okay? No names. Okay? We don't get involved, after the person leaves the world. And the Dayan says they offer him a pathway to do teshuvah. Now, I really don't know, right, of course, I really don't know what pathway of teshuvah can be given, okay? But for sure that putting together some of the halachot of teshuvah, of forgiveness, besides the judicial aspect, police, charging, whatever, jail time, whatever that means in the law of the land, but definitely from a spiritual perspective for the neshama, it's also important. It's also important, the aspect of teshuvah. Because don't ask what's happening in Shamayim with his soul. I don't even going to say what's happening. But the moment that suicide took place, it's like he missed all the shortcuts that could have been given by living a physical life, by apologizing to every victim, and to do spiritual penitence, so to speak, to do something again. I'm not saying that just a couple of years in jail and apologizing will take care of the matter, because the way the Gemara mentioned today, multiply 22 victims that we know, okay? Has v'shalom. But the Gemara also says that when it comes, or when the books of Musar says, El le'ha'arich b'davar ha'mista'er. On topics that are painful, should not expand too much. But I felt the obligation to say something about it by the suggestions and the questions of some people that we received in the past 48 hours. Let's discuss very quickly situations in life that prevent the person of doing teshuvah. I wanted to give you 10, I'm going to give you 5. I'm going to go very quickly. Number 1, a person that isolates themselves from the community. A person that cuts the ties from the community. Everybody in the community is doing one way, you are separated, you don't care. You don't associate yourself in the good times or in the challenging times. And we discussed this halacha in a different topic last week's Torah portion, Menachem Shemot, that how Am Israel lived together, even though they were in slavery, but they lived together and they became a cohesive group of people, and we became Am Israel, and we were able to come out of Egypt. Number 2, Aholek al divrei hachamim, a person that argues with the hachamim. Now, we're not referring to like you are in the kollel or you are in the yeshiva and there is a halachic debate, you're explaining the Gemara, the commentaries, but we love each other and we respect each other and we accept each other. That's not what he's referring to. But this halacha of the Rambam is basically that a person says, this is made by the rabbis. It's not biblical. Some people think like that. And many, unfortunately, that's sad. But they don't understand that listening to the Hachamim is one of the mitzvot of the Torah, like eating kasher and being shomer Shabbat and putting on tefillin. Al pi Torah, hasher yarucha. What do you think? The Hachamim invent things that people perhaps don't understand why it's done? That's a whole different ballgame. But you need to know one thing, that every single halacha that we have, or even minhagim, customs, traditions. Sephardic Jews from Halab, they do one way. The Sham, they do another. Egyptian, another. Mexican, another. Morocco, Tetuan, Fez, Casablanca, Tangier, Marrakesh, 5 different Shulchan Aruch. Right? But it's not a problem. It's not a problem. These are minhagim. As long as the traditions stay within the parameters of Jewish law, we are okay. But if a person, God forbid, makes a derogatory comment and it says the invention of the day by the rabbis, it says, so if a person belittles the Hachamim or talks about the Hachamim on the condescending way, how will the person able to do teshuvah? Another one, Hamal'id al hamizvot, a person who mocks the mitzvot. What does it mean? A person laughs at the mitzvot. The person says, simple example, from now on, I'm not lighting the Shabbat candles because I have electricity. For example, or from now on, I'm not eating matzah in Pesach. Because we left Egypt 300 years ago, no longer applies. So the Lacha says, שכיוון שנתבזו בעיניו, now that the mitzvot to this problematic individual, they are like yani nothing, אין הוא רודף אחריהם, you don't chase them, ולא עושם. If you don't follow the mitzvot, that means that you don't do the mitzvot. ואם לא יעשה במה יזכה, if you don't do mitzvot, how do you make deposits into your account in Shamayim? It's like you want to sell merchandise and you don't open the store. And you complain, business is not good. Open the store. Hamavdil, right? That's exactly what the Rambam says. Number 4, Hamebazeh Rabotav. A person who speaks bad about his rabbis. It happens. I'm dealing with a case now. Not here, Baruch Hashem. From a different institution that I was asked to get involved.
Why is complaining?
Whatever they say. If you have to say something to a rabbi, you should not do it. Okay, let me paraphrase this because I'm talking on the rabbis now. So if you have to say something about the rabbi, the less you speak about the rabbi, the better. Number 1. That's also halacha in the Hafetz Haim. Hazak Baruch. The Hafetz Haim says, even to talk good about a person, don't really do it.
And no good and no bad.
No, why? I tell you why. Let's say that I say in this conversation, oh, Mr. Abraham is a nice fellow. It's a nice fellow, right? But then suddenly says, why do you say that he's a nice fellow? Oh, because he went to the Sefer and donated, let's say, $1,000 to the synagogue. For example, somebody says, tell him to pay his debts before he donates money to the synagogue. So you try to say something nice,
And then it gets
right? Or he says, no, he's always so elegant and tactful in the synagogue. He says, because you don't know him outside of the synagogue. Outside of the synagogue is a shark. He wears a mask. So that's what the Hafez Haim says. You're going to say something good about the person in a public forum, in a public setting, and you're going to create indirectly a moment that someone, same thing with the rabbis. So it says the halacha here, Hamebazeh Rabotav, if a person happens to live in a community and you stuck there, meaning to say you don't have options to go to a different synagogue, but he doesn't respect the rabbi. Not that he disrespects, but the rabbi talks, he keeps praying and reading Tehillim, which is a halachic question. If when the rabbi is giving a shiur, you can pray. It's a question. Because you're saying to the rabbi, okay, finish talking while I finish reading. Oh, I know that, but you're a gentleman. You're a Harun Kohen. So that's why you know all these answers. Your DNA,
Praying or Tehillim?
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just listen to the rabbi. And it says that if you don't have this normal relationship with the rabbi, so how are you going to learn Torah and how are you going to learn how to conduct yourself in a better way? Number 5, Hasoneh et hatohachot. Let's say that I come to someone privately, respectfully, tactfully, and I say to the person, you know what? You try to avoid this because what you're doing is not halachically correct. And the person comes back with an attitude and he tells you, don't tell me what to do. That's called soneh et hatohachot. A person that despises being rebuked. Yani they are always right. She'areh lo iniach lo derech teshuvah. If you're not willing to listen to correct something that requires fixing or improvement, why? It says that when somebody comes to you and he tells you, try to do this different because halachically should be done this way, halachically should be done that way, that is the gift from Shamayim to this person to open the door to remedy this shortcoming. Again, but I will finish the class with the following. Okay. Shlomo HaMelech says, תוכיח לחכם ביהרקה, ואל תוכח לץ פן ישנאך. Translation. Rebuke the wise man and he will love you. But don't rebuke the buffoon or the clown because a scoffer, because he will despise you.
Mhm.
But you know what the Gemara also says? That when you have to say something to someone, you have to do your homework. What does it mean? First, it needs to be said out of love, out of respect. Number one. That's why the mitzvah of the Torah, Ocheach tochiach et amitecha. There is a mitzvah from the Torah to rebuke people. But interesting enough, the Torah uses double language. Ocheach tochiach. Rebuke, you shall rebuke your friend. That's the way most people translate this pasuk. But you know what this pasuk really means? Ochiach et atzmecha ve'achar kach et acherim. First, do your own soul searching. What I'm going to tell you to fix, do I have that deficiency or not? The Gemara also tells you that if you see a deficiency in someone, it means that you have that deficiency as well. So Gemara in Baba Kama that says, Kol posel bemumo posel. How am I able to see a deficiency in you?
Because you know it.
Because I have that. Now, let's clarify. There are different levels of deficiencies. If I see somebody eating not kasher, it doesn't mean that I'm eating not kasher. But if you talk about an attitude or a behavior pattern, sometimes the person can, that's why the Gemara also says, Kol posel pasul. Criticism is dangerous. Don't criticize.
Even good criticism.
No, if you have to do criticize, there is positive reinforcement. Now, there are ways of doing it. Do it privately, do it out of love, and only do it, the Gemara says, if you believe that the person will listen. If you know that the person will not listen, take a step back. And the Gemara says, כשם שמצווה לומר דבר שישמע, כך מצווה שלא לומר דבר שלא יישמע. The Gemara says, the same way there is a proper thing to say something that people will listen to, also don't say something that people will not listen to. And that's where the rabbis need to remember this, the last minute that I just said, when it comes to dealing with the community. Dealing with the community is not dealing with one person. It's dealing with several people, several ages, several backgrounds, several levels of observance, several spiritual levels, several personalities, and the rabbis need to have siyata lishmaya, to make the right decisions and to guide the kahal accordingly. But I think that for today's class, we cover a lot of different ground, a lot of different topics. I apologize in advance if some of the topics that I discussed today were a bit heavier than usual, but as the Gemara says, Torah hi, וללמוד אני צריך. This is part of the Torah. When the Torah gives us all these messages, don't think because this was written 2,000 years ago, it became obsolete, out of style. Maybe my tie may be out of style, according to the Shulchan Aruch of the ties today. The ties today are very thin. I personally don't like them. So if you're going to give me a gift of a tie, I'm telling you now, I don't wear thin ties. I'm not asking you to do that. Baruch Hashem, you come to my closet, I think I have one for every day of the month, which I think is time to rejuvenate some of them.
But they're all very nice. Everyone is very nice.
Thank God, I'm a good-looking guy. What can I tell you? But in a more serious note, the Torah doesn't go out of style. The Torah doesn't go out of fashion. The Torah doesn't become obsolete. Sure, there's certain mitzvot of the Torah that because we are outside of Israel and because we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, so they are on the back burner. But even those mitzvot of the Torah, there is a mitzvah of learning about those mitzvot. Like we learned a few weeks ago, some of the mitzvot of Shemitah. That we are outside of Israel, but in Eretz Israel, they are observing Shemitah. So when we learn about Shemitah, Korbanot, Terumot, Maaserot, etc., even though we cannot do it in a practical way, the Pasuk says, Unshalema farim sefateno. You know what is the supplement of the mitzvah? Our talking. And that's why we learn this, and with this I finish very nether. I usually said that when I want to continue into overtime, but I'll try to finish in a minute or less. When it comes to the mitzvah of the para aduma, the Pasuk writes, "Vayeta lachem lechukat olam." What does it mean, chukat olam? If the last para aduma was done during the time of the second temple, how could it be an eternal covenant? Short answer. When we read every year Perashat Para and Perashat Chukat, and when we review the halachot of the Para Aduma, it's like we are actually offering a Para Aduma. Okay, my good friends, תזכה למזוות to the generous sponsors. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. הנני המנקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, הרבה להם תורה מזוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר, קדיש.
גדל ויקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
מה דיברה חילוקי וימיך ונוצר יצמח וקנה וקרב ושכם.
אמן.
יכל ויכול 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 ישראל.